Fitz of riding.
Good evening, Scribbles and Scratches of the Fitz of Writing community. My name is Sean. I'll be your host tonight, and I'm sitting here with an old friend, author, David Barrett. He was one of the few authors that wanted to come back on after my stint doing this the first go-around, and he is, or for a fun fact, he is the only author that, from the first go-around who has a reel or TikTok that is still active and out there in the socials.
I'll take it.
Yes, sir. How you doing, David?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a good while since we exchanged books.
Yeah.
And I think Bleeding the Divine was still a baby when you and I first talked, and you had just recently released Lamplight, right?
Yep, first book, Lamplight.
Yes, sir. And I enjoyed. We exchanged audiobook formats, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Davey O'Shea is a good protagonist, as I recall. Go ahead and, for anybody who hasn't read Lamplight, kind of run us through that one so that we can get to talking about Searchlight.
All right. So the main thing that people need to know going into Lamplight is it's a alternate fiction novel. So it's a speculative fiction novel. It's basically certain real history events happen. It's a what if this happened instead. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when going into this book, because a lot of people might not know that a lot of the events are actual events, and a lot of the characters I brought in were real people. So that was actually a really fun thing that I did with that book. Was I really enjoy history and things like that, so I love bringing that kind of stuff in. So Lamplight basically started as just a dream, how a lot of things go. So it follows the protagonist, Davy O'Shea, who happens to be a sparker, and he goes around lighting the lamps at night, the streets of London in the year 1888, which just so happens to be the same year that Jack the Ripper is stalking the streets. And that does add a nice, interesting, red-tinted flair to it, I believe. Definitely something that has been written about, something that has been, filmed quite a bit of, but it's always good to get your own take on something. There's always going to be something out there that's a little bit like yours. That's why you got to make it your own, got to make it interesting.
Well, there's
the
only
main character. Oh no, go ahead. Yeah,
well, I was going to say the only thing that I haven't seen anybody else do is mix Arthurian legend with Jack the Ripper. So.
You know what? I'll take it. I appreciate that. It was interesting. It was a really fun idea I had, and I went with it. I went wild. It was very fun to do. The other thing is I added Nikola Tesla into it, and not a lot of people know a lot about Nikola Tesla, but the great thing about Nikola Tesla is he is the basis to a lot of modern technology, like wireless charging is based off of some of his old, inventions and designs and things like that. So I have Nikola Tesla in there. Basically, Davy O'Shea finds out he is a descendant of King Arthur, and so he must hunt after Jacobus, King Arthur's nemesis, who is stalking the streets of London, all the while looking out for Jack the Ripper, making sure the lights are staying on and things like that. It's just definitely a interesting romp through London in 1888, I think.
I can agree. I can get on board with that. I think, without trying to reveal too much for anybody who might want to start the series fresh, your antagonist gets revealed in the Jacobus character gets revealed towards the end of Lamplight, and what I guess I would ask, rather than kind of just lay anything else out, would be like, what's Davey getting up to in the sequel that's out now, Searchlight? It is out now, right?
It is out. So I went a little bit different with the second one, Searchlight. So Searchlight is actually about Davy O'Shea's grandson, Deckard O'Shea.
Okay.
And yeah, it's basically if you do start the beginning of the first, it kind of it'll lend itself to why we go that way with the second book, and the ending leads into the second book. So don't want to give that away either, obviously. Um, and the second book is about his grandson, Deckard, Deck for short. That's what he goes by, and it's in the backdrop of the second novel is World War II era London.
Okay. You like
And
a lot of bad things happening to London in your books. The UK, the UK has scorned you in some way.
You know what? That's I don't want to go too deep into that. That's between me and London, I think.
Right. London knows what it did.
London knows.
Well, what made you want to jump 2 generations forward for this one? And are you planning on filling in all the stuff in between, or?
No, so I can actually kind of explain. This doesn't really go into like the actual book itself. So I basically wanted to write the first book because I wanted something I think my grandfather would have loved to read. And I kind of made the first book, pseudo like, my grandpa's story. And the second book is me, in a sense, my story. And that's kind of what I went with. I it just I guess that's kind of how I felt. I really wanted to bring in a new generation because I can always go back with Davy. I can always go back and do more stuff with Davy. But I think going on with his grandson was a good idea because it lends itself to a familiar but brand new setting. London knows what it did. Besides that,
As long as something bad is happening to London,
then we have ourselves a book.
Yeah, Barrett's going to write about it.
That's just how it goes. I just wanted to write up to the backdrop of World War II, and it's alternate history again. So in my book, the Battle of Britain, instead of what happened in real life, where the Germans didn't actually occupy or take over, London, England, they actually succeeded, and so obviously that's the backdrop. But it is important to note that it is just a backdrop. I do preface it in the beginning. It's obviously a lot of bad things happened during World War II, and I don't think a lot of people make note of that kind of thing when they write a story. They don't make note that murders actually happened with Jack the Ripper, and there were people that died during a certain time frame or during a war. And so I do make sure the readers know that it's simply a backdrop. I'm not ignoring the bad things that happened. I just wanted to use it as a setting. So that's a big thing I wanted to point out. Because I feel like somebody might bring up, hey, why are you just writing a story about something that happened that killed all these people? Well, that's fiction lends itself from fact. That's just how it is.
Sure. And you aren't the only author to do something like that and have the backdrop be like a big important part of history and whatnot. It almost lends a sort of credibility to the events of what you're doing. Not to say it wouldn't have it without it, but it kind of just the backdrop is much more dramatic than just it happening on a Tuesday. And
I think to add to that, I was never good at coming up with any kind of like high fantasy settings or like my own kingdoms and stuff like that. I think if I sat down and tried to do that, I probably could, but I ain't got time for that. I'll leave that to other people that can do that better than me.
Sure. Those historical authors.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you're twisting, history and everything as you go anyway, so there is nothing to say that you can't just make it be how you want it to be. Let me ask you this. Do you think that with having a different character, I'm assuming the antagonist is probably still the same, to some degree, like large form?
To some degree, correct, yes.
And so I'm assuming, or how should I assume that somebody who goes to read Searchlight is going to find the first book different than or find the second book different than the first?
Okay, good question. Good question. So the first book is slower pace. It's a more of a whodunit. Takes over the course of about a year. The second book is about 5 days.
Okay, so the pacing's a lot
Uh,
quicker.
yeah, the pacings, snap, snap. Let's get going. Come on, guys. We got to do some stuff. And I have a little bit more magic elements in it, a little bit more fantasy elements in the second one. I wanted to bring that more that Arthurian stuff into it. Wanted to make it seem a little more fantastical. And I think I blended that relatively well with the story and the elements of Excalibur and the Knights of the Round Table and things like that.
It's really cool that you do that as the world is getting more industrial. You're writing more
Hmm.
fantasy into it. Was it very?
I
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say. All I was gonna do is ask. Was it very different to write? Did it take you about the same amount of time?
It took about the same amount of time, but I was able to put more into it as I was writing it. The first time around when I wrote the first book, it took about a year and a half, a year, but I finished it and then I added more to it after the fact. With the second book, I was able to add more to it as I was writing. I've noticed that I have a hard time putting in too much. I almost put in too little, and have to go back and reread and add more and flesh out ideas and do a little bit more here and there. I just have that thought in my mind. I need to get it out on paper, and then my buddy's like, "Hey, this part was really cool. What were you gonna do with it?" I'm like, "I don't know. You're right. I just thought it was cool."
Yeah. And you don't like to stick to a very strict script, if I remember correctly. You kind of just see where the characters take you, and sometimes they surprise you.
For sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, in writing the second one, I wrote it, and as soon as I put that final sentence down, I looked over, and I was like, "Huh, I didn't see that coming."
I think
I
that
mean,
was
I kind of knew what I was doing with it, but it ended. And I'm like, "Wow, huh? They did that. Cool."
touche. I
You know. Uh,
I think that it's funny. I think I'm almost positive that is had something to do with what the title was on the first video that we shot, which was that your character had done something you hadn't expected. It's like not what I would have
he
done,
really
but
did that, huh?
yeah.
Exactly. Oh man, there are some things I put in the second book for my characters that I was just like, really? What? I don't know. They're not when I visualize the book when I'm writing, I'm watching it. I'm watching it happen as I'm writing it, and I don't know if that's like a lot of other authors. To be honest, I watch it happen, and as it unfolds, I add more stuff here and I add more stuff there, and then I can go back and tweak things because I get really lucky, I think, when I'm writing my story that it happens to work out where I can go back and fix something if I messed up with it later on. I'm like, oh, well, I got to change that quick. I'll just add a couple paragraphs. There we go. Spick and span.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah, I run into more authors that do it like you lately than people who do it like me. But as my usual mistake, or as my usual thing that I say about it is just like if I don't outline it very very strictly, I will get bored and wander off, and
I get that.
it's never towards
Hmm.
the story. So, um,
Hmm. No,
I
I get that. Yeah.
I find it really interesting, but you're one of the only folks who have been, I would say, legitimately surprised by their characters and what they get up to. So,
Yeah, I would say so. I think so. Yeah.
well, let me ask you about the future. Searchlight, are you planning a sequel? Are you keeping it with Deckard, or are you going to go another 2 generations forward?
Um. So I actually have the third book written already.
Okay.
I just don't have it edited yet or anything like that. I have it edit. I have it wrote. I have it written. I have the cover for it. The basic cover for it. I have to just get it over to my editor at some point, and it's part of tech. I call it the I loosely called it the O'Shea trilogy, um, because the third book actually does continue on with Deckard. I did continue on with Deckard, but it it just kind of goes bonkers after the second, in a good way. I hope. I know it's typical for people to write about time travel, but let's just say there's some time travel in the third book.
I'm a sucker for time travel. I love it. I'll definitely have to check them
It's
both out.
always fun.
But I'm sure a few people are wondering, just no love for Davy's son and Deckard's dad, huh? He didn't do anything special?
I actually, I think he has a name,
It's a good start.
but I've never really written about the father, and I was like, yeah, he's not important. He's alright. It's okay. you know, just the mom's there. The mom's there, and the mom of Deckard is loosely based off my mom, and the dad is loosely based off my dad. But and I mean, by means, it doesn't reflect upon what I feel about my own dad. But I don't know, just didn't feel like the dad was that important to give a name to.
Okay. That's interesting. You had a friend of yours narrating the at Lamplight. Is he going to stick with you through narrating and making audiobooks for the whole trilogy?
So I do have the audiobook for the second out. It's been out for quite some time. And it's somebody else. It's going to be the same gentleman that narrates the third book.
Okay.
So I thought changing characters, grandfather to grandson, he needed a different voice.
That's not a bad point. Okay. How did you want to tell everybody, because we have had a discussion with a narrator as far as like what it's like to be approached by authors to narrate. But what do you think is a valuable little do or don't to give out to authors who are just getting started for finding a narrator?
Yeah. So important things to remember to find a good narrator for your book is obviously ultimately you want somebody you would want to enjoy to listen to, I think is important. But you kind of want to figure out the style you want it to be. Do you want the narrator to do different sounding voices for characters, which I think is more nowadays, I think people have, or do you want just a straight narration of a book? When I actually approach a narrator, I will give them snippets of a few different characters and ask if they can do a lady's voice, the certain accents I have, um, and just kind of go from there and ask for samples. I was using Fiverr a lot, and I'm not obviously promoting anything, but I found Fiverr very helpful because a lot of people on there worked really well with you. You could find somebody on Fiverr that would do a sample for you. Or I even did go find like 6 or 7 people where I just paid them $5 to give me a sample. Yeah, $5 for a few people, here and there, that adds up, but I feel like somebody's more likely to give you a better, narration
Sure.
if you actually show that you're sure about having them narrate your book. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. All right. I've used Fiverr before. They helped me come up with a few things for an old author site and everything. When I was managing that, I haven't spent much time on it, but that's mostly just a space where everybody can kind of hunt down freelancers to do whatever it is that you need them to do, especially for story creation and whatnot, right?
Yep, it was really good for that. I used Fiverr for finding the narrators, finding the illustrator, finding the person that formatted my book. And I also used a few Facebook groups that directed me to a few people for formatting and also doing covers. So it's you got to find that like path, and then you end up getting lucky. I believe, in my opinion, I went through a few different people, but you find somebody you like. I think.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that worked out for you. I think anywhere you go shopping for somebody, whether it, like just specifically talking
Yeah.
about a narrator, whether you go to Fiverr or ACX, you're going to have to
Yep.
take an awful lot of bad with the good for people just
Yep.
out there trying to make a quick buck. Um,
Yeah, sadly.
but what is your opinion of have you ever ran into anybody who has tried to get a book narrated using AI or anything like that?
I've come across it. I haven't seen somebody like outright, talk to anybody about it, but I've seen it on like Audible. I use Audible a lot to listen to books too. I probably have 500 books in my library. I use it quite a bit, and um, I guess if you may be asking for my opinion on it, I think AI can be used for a lot of things, and I feel like it's very individual for what somebody believes, what it could be good for. When it comes to narration, when I like went to find out the virtual voice narration, I personally don't enjoy it as much when I'm listening because I do find the inflection to not be quite right, and I do find that the voices don't really change. You won't quite get the same feeling from a monotone narrator than you will get from somebody, you know, who's flesh and blood, you or I, actually speaking the words, I guess is the best way to put it.
I'm with you there almost entirely, if not entirely. I think it's a great tool to use, but it shouldn't
Yeah.
be replacing the, for lack of a better term, soul of a real person putting the work in. I was just
Yep.
watching a video when I was on a longer drive the other day. I wasn't watching it; I was listening to it. It was
Yeah.
the life story of Darth Nihilus. Um, in the Star Wars Legends universe and everything, and the AI
Yeah.
that was narrating it pronounced his name about 4 different ways, and God,
Yeah.
that bothered me.
I have noticed that too. Yep. And it's really strange because you think if you're using virtual voice, it's supposedly a learning software. It's not really learning well, I think.
It isn't finished. It's not ready.
I do know about that. That's very true.
Yeah, that kind of stuff always makes me just kind of, and so will it
Yeah.
happen someday and
Mhm.
get rid of the need for authors, narrators, and all that stuff? Maybe, but I have my fingers crossed that it isn't anytime soon. Um,
No, I agree. I don't think it's going to necessarily get rid of it, but I think it's going to divide the norm, I think would be the best way to put it.
It'll be like the background history in Dune that'll eventually have computers outlawed.
Basically, right? Wow.
The Butlerian Jihad. That's what it was called. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the okay. Well, that was an interesting little brain pick. I wasn't expecting to ask you about. Just popped up in my head while we were talking about your guy who narrated Lamplight, and the outside of the trilogy that you've got right there. Do you have any ideas for
Yeah.
what you're going to be doing afterwards?
So I actually have a fourth book that's basically done with it's in the same universe uh as Lamplight. So basically I call it it's in the same universe. It's called Embers of the Past.
Okay.
Basically it's based I think like 1500 years in the future. Um but it's obviously still has Arthurian legend and Excalibur and a lot of other stuff like that. And actually, the fourth one is my favorite so far, I believe. Just focus. It's not. This is actually where in the fourth, which I don't mean to divert off to something else. It's based in London, England, but that's about as far as it goes in terms of using history. I still have King Arthur, but I would actually say that besides some cities and landscape and like England, I actually have come up with most of the stuff for that world, which surprised me a little bit. I think because I guess in my opinion, if I think of something, I'm like, oh, that's just dumb. Nobody's gonna want to read that. I gotta root it in real history.
It's like, what? Well, what's going on to London in the fourth book? You can tell us that much. Like the third American
Oh,
Revolution. Like this time we take it to them.
it's uh, it's definitely nope. It's definitely decimated.
Of course it is. Wow, London made you so mad. Okay.
No, it's gone. It's just rubble. It's nothing. There's nothing left.
You
That's how it
fucked up,
goes,
London.
London knows what it did.
It's got to be the title of the video. London knows what it did.
Yeah, London knows what it did.
Yeah. Oh wow.
It's yeah, it's a fun one. And the fourth one has the most magic involved. It's got the most fantasy involved in it. So,
Well, that'd be exciting. What? So, being as you just have to get the third one edited, you've got the fourth one ready to rock and roll too. We got some kind of an ETA on when those are going to be available to everybody.
third one should be out mid next year, I believe. Actually, I'm working with my editor. We're forming a publishing company of our own.
Great.
For our own books and stories. Yeah, so I shifted away from the old publishing company I was using under a name Future Fossil Fiction. That's part of my old history, my old past, the fossils of my past, I suppose to say. Um, Forging on with new things, so it's going to be called Coal Iron Quill Publishing. And I believe we both have a lot of ideas. We're going to go with short stories, putting it on our books and stuff like that. We just he approached me because I approached him about editing my third. And then he approached me back saying, hey, why don't we just start this together? He actually has his own bookstore in Canada. And he has a lot of, he's got a lot going on. So that's why it's going to take a little bit to get that narrated or rather, sorry, edited. But at that point, after it gets edited, then I'll have it off to the narrator. The narrator that I was using does a good job. So, hopefully around mid next year. The target was actually this month, this year, but some stuff came up on both of our ends. So kind of pushed it back, but that's okay. It happens.
It does. Tell me a little bit about this publishing company. You're the second person that I know I've talked to this season who's got their own, like, decided to start their own publishing company. What's the big draw there for you to make that like be the way you want to go rather than just doing something like KDP or Ingram Spark?
So currently, besides being our own publishing company, I was using Ingram Spark, and we may continue to use that as we publish our own books under the label. But in terms of under label, I just feel like I want to use that somewhat traditional feeling of a published book. When you pick up a book, it usually has a publisher. It has the nice looking logo on the spine, stuff like that. And I think that's kind of what I want to go with is I'm going to go with somebody I know. I'm going to work with somebody I know and put something out there that I can be proud of with a logo that will hopefully become recognizable. And then at that point, we can go from there. I feel like just, saying that this was written by A. David Barrett, copyright thereof and stuff like that, it feels better to me to have a publishing company name, I guess.
Sure, well, I can get that, and it sounds like a little bit in the vein of just keeping that total creative control and keeping all rights to yourself and everything too. Do you foresee you and your editor taking on other people as well?
You know what? I wouldn't see it being a problem, and I think that would actually always be a good option. I would not mind it because I know how hard it is to get a book published in general. If you go the self-publishing route, it can be hard if you want to do it in a way that you can be proud of. Because let's be completely honest, there's a lot of books on Amazon that are slapped together and thrown up there. And you know what? If that's all you can do, great. But if you can go a little further, do so, you know? And I feel like helping other people out with direction and things like that, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Not one bit. No, I'm excited for you. I hope that pans out really well.
Appreciate it.
Give us a shout out. We'll give you a shout out. All that kind of stuff. You guys start
definitely.
doing
Yeah.
giveaways, free editing, or something.
Yeah. Exactly. Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's definitely definitely up there. Whatever we decide, definitely wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, and I definitely think that it's maybe it feels to me as if it's something new. I know I was kind of logged out of the whole literary world for a little while, but I don't recall ever hearing about it a few years back. It seems like it's a newer idea that people are having, and I think it's kind of a good way to really kind of step out and, like you said, you put a logo under your name and everything. Eventually that becomes recognizable, and people eat with your eyes, you read with your eyes, you start recognizing stuff like that. It can only be good for you.
Yep. For sure, we're hoping.
Yeah, well, best of luck to you, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
For sure.
Only real thing that I had left to kind of touch base with you is for anybody who wants to get Lamplight, Searchlight, follow you on till, see what other horrible things happened to London in the past, present, and future. What are the best ways to follow David Barrett?
So I am on Instagram at @davidbarrett, and I believe that on Facebook you can find me by the David Barrett, because some other guy has David Barrett, and I've tried messaging him, and it's just some random dude, and he's never gotten back to me. So I guess I'm just the David Barrett instead of David Barrett on there. So
you know what's funny? I'm pretty sure I messaged that guy looking for you a few months ago.
But most likely.
He didn't answer me either.
Nope, that's how it goes. Maybe he's in London or something. I don't know.
In London, 1,500 years in the future.
Email davidbarrett@gmail.com. I also have, side note, I'm getting back into doing more creative stuff, so you can see that stuff on my David Barrett account on Instagram. I don't have a website at the moment. At some point it will be Coal Iron Quill, I believe, is what we will go with, but just David Barrett on Instagram is honestly the best way to find me.
That's very cool. I will go ahead and shill a little bit myself here. If you want to ask David a question that I didn't get to, go ahead and put it down in the comments. We're going to put all of his socials in the description below. Please like, follow, comment, subscribe, engage in some way, please. I beg you. And we will go ahead and I think we'll probably call it a night. Is there anything else you want to say to everybody, David?
Write the story you want to write. It's only going to be whatever you want it to make. It's the tales we tell define who we are, and that's kind of the best thing. And hashtag London knows what it did.
I love it. Gotta put that in the description too. We're gonna start a whole new hashtag. All right. On that note, for everybody at Fitz of Writing here tonight and London, fade to black.
Yes.